Welcome back to the Long Game Culture Podcast. I'm Victoria Puente Peters, and I'm joined by my colleagues Q Phillips and Sajade Miller. This podcast was started because America is divided right now. We want to evaluate the problem and see if we can come up with some solutions.
Today, we're building on our last episode and pressing deeper to explore who bears the responsibility and the burden of change, and how can tools like deconstruction help us to prioritize humanity over partisanism.
In our last episode, we had a great discussion about identity politics and dog whistles, and I want to pick us up where we left off. Let's start here. When harm happens, why is it the responsibility of the harm to teach the harmer? Why do we expect the offended to both carry the wound and become the professor? And on the other side, why do the offended sometimes expect others to just know what they did wrong? Almost like reading minds. Where does the responsibility for growth truly belong, and what happens if no one claims it? So let's begin with you, Sajade.
Three major points come to mind with me when we talk about who bears the burden of change, right? I was taught in the work that you never put the people who have been victimized or oppressed or offended in a position to have to explain and rationalize their feelings. Their feelings are absolute, valid, and true to them. And by questioning why one feels this way, I also learned this in marriage counseling, by the way. By questioning the way why someone feels a way, sort of undermines their ability and their right to feel, right? And it puts them on edge. And so if someone is offended by a statement such as, "You're nice for a black guy," or "You speak well for a black guy," I have a choice. I resent that remark, and I could take on the banner of saying, because I'll say this, my second point, silence preserves division. We do have a responsibility to speak up, speak out, and to redirect. I think the challenge is many of us lack the emotional intelligence to be able to redirect flatly, as I call it, without rage. Some things are so offensive that it evokes this vitriol and this rage that's been brewing since I was 18 years old, and I'm going to take it out on you in this moment. That's not right. Silence, because I don't know how to speak, is not right. However, it is my choice. If I have to choose between silence and just crashing out, as the kids call it, and I choose silence, that should be applauded. I shouldn't be baited into tell me why, tell me more, because you may not want to experience my explanation of the why because it's rooted in some deep multi-generational stuff. The problem is like, I feel offended because you have on a green shirt. I feel offended because you have on black pants. Like, yeah, get over it. Right? And so I think it's a slippery slope. It's a tricky line. And my last point is I think forgiveness without accountability creates a cycle of harm. You said this thing, "You speak well for a black guy." I'm going to play out those scenarios. Man, that's offensive. Well, tell me why. I mean, because the black guys I see, they don't speak as well as you do. You need to hang with different groups. I don't know who you're hanging with, but all the black guys I associate with speak a lot better than I speak. So I'm offended and I resent that statement, implying that black people are unintelligent and incapable of speaking correctly. And so I can get into all that, but there's also a phenomenon called the cultural taxation. Why is it always in these groups that I'm put on the spot to have to validate the black cause and explain this to all my well-intentioned, well-meaning, good white friends that I love and I know love me dearly? But I don't want to be the guy in every conversation that have to explain the black plight. I'm exhausted by that. Also, I can't remain silent and let you make it. But I have to present the information in a way when I am ready to hope that your love for me and your appreciation of me seeks understanding of me and my feelings, as opposed to me understanding your righteous indignation. And I know you're supposed to say this word, and fragility, because I've called you out on something that I've found offensive. So that's a lot.
Well, okay, and I want to go back to your original example from last episode was that someone complimented your kids being polite.
I was going to make a point that happens to me and my wife often. And I've never really talked about this outside my household. And it's, in my opinion, it's highly offensive. It's when we're out with our children. This happens nearly daily. At the grocery store, we have a 4-year-old, we have an 8-year-old, and we have an 11-year-old. And we run our household a certain way. But it never fails. A white lady comes to me or my wife, "Oh my God, your children are so well behaved. Your children are so nice." Or they said please and thank you. They're so mannerable. And sometimes, catch me on the right day, I might say, As opposed to what? Or I'll say, what did you expect? And maybe I'm overly sensitive. But what I interpret them saying is, oh my God, your kids are so, their subject and verbs agree. They're so polished, they're so neat, they're so clean. To be a Black family, what's different about you guys? And maybe I'm sensitive. But when I see the white family right next to me and their kids are acting the exact same way, that lady doesn't come over to that family and say, oh my God, your kids are so nice, they're so clean, they're so presentable. They come to me and mine and they say, oh my God, good job, good Black people. You're doing a good job raising your kids. For me, that's a microaggression. For me, that's offensive.
Now, they didn't say you're Black kids.
They didn't say that.
And so I'm just saying we can assume some things, but it may just be that I can imagine your kids are going to be smarter than most kids and better behaved because you were a principal and you're also very intelligent. And so your kids are going to be intelligent.
So could we get in? Okay. You didn't say Black in that instance, but I'm telling you, as you told the story as a fellow Black man in arms, I felt it.
Yeah.
And I felt exactly what was going on there. And I made the leap of assumption.
Yeah.
Right? That she is saying this to you because you're a Black father, y'all a Black family.
Might have. I don't doubt that is, we know. Sometimes we just know what people mean by that. But there are occasionally, I would say, times when it really is just a misunderstanding.
Sure.
And how do we navigate that, you know?
Well, you are absolutely right in that this is like the green shirt. I'm offended because you're wearing a green shirt. Well, damn, I can't say, So I understand that also it may be residual from the trauma that I carry with me, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. And there could be a presumption of good intent. There could be the benefit of the doubt, but there also could be, I'm not going to let you make it in the event that you are on some biased, discriminatory nonsense. And so I think it's a balance, which I think is the point of this segment, right? There is an elevated sensitivity, particularly in these times, to any and all statements that are made.
Yeah. And so this is what we're talking about with the other dirty word of privilege, right? The privilege is not because of your white skin, you automatically are granted riches and glory at birth, right? Because that's what it seems to be misconstrued to. And that's why people rail against it. What do you mean privilege? And I grew up here and I had to do this and and it's like, that's not what we're talking about the privilege. The privilege is that in a scenario like Jade is talking about when he's in a grocery store with his family, that if someone does compliment how well behaved his children are being at the time, is that he don't have to worry about whether or not they're saying this because he's Black. That's the privilege, right? The privilege is that he don't have to worry that things are going to be on merit and on face value and not because he's some exception to some rule. Not your children are so well behaved because I expect Black children to be misbehaving all the time because I know that. But your children are well behaved in the grand scheme of what behavior looks like as people, right? That's the part. And that's why when you were telling that story originally about someone approaching you in that manner, I felt like, this is happening because he's Black. And the thing is, I understand that I feel that way too because I'm Black. Because maybe if I'm not, I might be like, well, maybe it's not Black. Like, you're not Black. So you're like, well, maybe it's just the behavior, right? But it's these different lived experiences that we all have when it comes to these things. And the privilege is that this is happening simply with an aspect of our humanity and not because of a different box I check, that now I'm the exception to this thing.
And so you're saying that a white family would never have to guess whether or not they're saying, oh, your kids are just well behaved, or they're saying your kids are well behaved because they're white.
Yeah.
Whereas a Black family would be like, what do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
Are my kids well behaved because you expect Black kids not to be well behaved?
Yes.
Or are my kids just well behaved based off of any standard?
Absolutely.
And I hear your argument as there's an assumption that it's based off you're Black. I hear you're saying, because I don't have the privilege necessary of giving the benefit of the doubt because it hasn't been extended to me. And historically, I've been subjugated and subjected to bias based off of the color of my skin. And so I carry that with me. And so I don't know how to take that compliment.
Absolutely.
And I think
That's
that
tricky.
some people then might say, well, I don't even know
what to
I
say.
could accidentally say something when I genuinely felt that way. Now,
So valid.
But I mean, all these are so nuanced and subtle, like how purity tests were causing frustration. I've experienced some of that. I think we all have at some point. I hope that I'm speaking correctly, that we've all experienced that. Would you say that you've experienced that?
Experience what exactly?
Purity tests, like where you were criticized because you said something that someone felt was, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So I was at a table. It was after a meeting, and a friend that is a mutual friend was dancing to some sort of like, I don't know, it was pop music by a white artist. And they were just, doing this.
What were they doing? Show us like that?
Like
okay.
this,
Okay.
And someone jumped on them for just dancing because it was a white artist. And
Oh, so the
being
expectation is
shamed.
that you cannot dance to music created by white people?
That was kind of what was implied.
That's a far one. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a far one. All right.
So it's even down to stuff like that. Or maybe you sided with somebody and they felt you should not have sided with them, or you okayed some sort of a vote on a single issue like we talked about in the last episode.
So by purity test, you're referring to like a loyalty. Are you loyal to the party platform? So
Yeah.
pure being, are you a pure Republican? Are you a pure Democrat or progressive or
Whatever your identity,
Conservative,
whatever your, it's not that I declare I am this identity, but oftentimes we're expected to fall in line with,
perceived identity norms,
yes.
categorical norms?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
would you say that you've experienced that?
I would say that I experienced that. Yeah. The example you used.
It may not have been correct.
No. That's fine. But that one was extreme. That's that part in me that wars against like extremist. That felt, because I know some hard-nosed grassroots advocates that are like just power to the people down for the cause. That ain't went as far as like you dancing to a white song right now. That's tough. Like that. That's a level beyond. Like there might be an individual artist that is problematic enough to where it's like, okay, you supporting this individual artist now. Well, okay, that makes a little more sense. But just like on the flat premise that a white person created this so you can't get down to, that's a step far.
I'll give you an example that's tangible.
Yeah.
So 2024, some people in my circle were Target loyalist.
Come on now.
Target loyalist.
Target.
Oh, you mean Target the store.
Yes.
Okay.
Target. And of late, there's all this pressure. They're doing economic boycotts related to their DE&I practices or the deviation of such. And so there's been a call, and it's been a successful call, right?
Yeah.
And so every now and then, I'll see a Target bag. and that creates a lot of conversations because I need us to be a part of the struggle collectively and together. I don't care how convenient it was.
Come on now.
The people who walked in the Montgomery bus boycott were inconvenienced as a matter of necessity, getting to and from work or getting their basic needs met. I need us to boycott for a little while longer until they do right by us. They don't deserve our money. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that everyone should incorporate that. But in terms of loyalty tests or purity tests, and to your point, I look at my friends and I'm like, you're not down for the struggle? What happened? What happened?
Yeah.
And so that's just an example. And we do what we have to do for our families. And there are some products and there's some healthcare lines, some other things that Target carries, or you have to wait, or you have to order from Amazon. And is Amazon any better, right? So there's all these conversations. It's nuanced, right? But yeah, to your point, people expect you to be 100% aligned to their perceived categorical identity of you and all the things that come with that, the actions or the prohibitions. And yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, and I thought about this. What do we get to have then?
What do you mean?
Right. Meaning in the sense of so many things can be linked back to problematic behaviors or problematic people or just harmful in so many ways. So what is it that we even get to partake in purely? Because so often, almost no matter anything you can name, somehow it has its roots in slavery or racism or misogyny or say like there's so many things. And I was thinking as you were thinking about the example of Target, and as inconvenient as that is, because my family also was very much a Target family, I've been able to get down with this one and ride with it pretty hard. And I can be hard-nosed about it. But then I think about the example of when things were happening with the NFL and how much I love football.
And one particular team, right?
Oh, man, come on now. How about them Cowboys? But thinking about that and those moments of if and when, should I or do I give that up? when there is so many joyful things that actually come from that. Because what also comes from that is what all the problematic things that may be in that particular professional sport and a whole bunch of others too, right? It also brings connectivity and joy. And I actually have crossed party and racial lines and I'll be through my love of my team and we can lay these things down and now we actually can form a relationship because you're a Cowboy fan, I'm a Cowboy fan, and we can actually build something from that. Or I get to sit down with my children and we enjoy this to one another, or we go to a game and this is one, you know what I mean? So it's these things that's also like, man, this is bringing me family and unity and joy, relaxation and entertainment. And do I give that up because you've done this thing that I don't like now?
Yes.
And that's just one part of it. Yeah, until I get to your thing, I'm going to tell you. But
right.
yeah, and it's only an example of that. But it's so many things like that. Whether it be the music, whether it be, it's so many things that we partake in. It's like, hey, why you eating that brand of steak? Because you know such and such did that. And it's like, then what do we get to have? Because if I'm really gonna get away from everything, I'm gonna be a broke, hungry, houseless, like, you know what I mean? Like, so again, I didn't want to derail too hard, but I'm saying I do think that's a topic that we can explore about what does that even look like? Because sometimes it is the righteous cause and it's more of the no-brainer to boycott or participate. And some other times it's like, man, well, how far are we gonna do what, when, and where's the effect gonna be? Because after a while, it's no longer inconvenient. It's impossible.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
so
right.
anyway.
Yeah, and I think that if you go back to how this started, we got into a rhythm of a shame culture. I get why we went there. It seemed to be the only way to affect change was if you had a lot of people shaming certain behaviors. I think we all hope that one day we should all be collectively trying to be better people and not being offensive. But for some people, they felt that they couldn't say anything or do anything without they've offended someone. And I think we should consider a different way because the shaming approach, while effective in the short term, caused people to be even more extreme in the long term. And now we're in a very dangerous situation, in my opinion. Again, I'm saying this out of like necessity. And also, even amongst our own groups, it was almost cannibalizing. It became like where it was like a game of who is more pure in their ideology, and it's performative. It becomes performative.
Yes.
And that is not good either. That we're missing the point. It becomes like a sport more than it is about the impact. And if we want to become a more loving society, united society, then you can't walk around looking at what can I shame next. It's not effective in the long term. And so what is the alternative? How can we approach things differently moving forward is the big question that I have. Or do you all agree with that at all?
I want clarification.
Okay.
When you were talking about the shame, I want to be clear on the mechanisms for change. You said that's
call out culture.
Call out culture
is one of the main ones.
Where an individual calls out an alleged or suspected perpetrator of racism or bias.
Rather than having a conversation with them, it feels performative. It feels like I'm going to embarrass you now.
Yeah.
And I'll say shame is a reaction to an event. Shame implies that the person that is recipient of the call out feels away. So I don't know how a group that is calling out perpetuates a shame culture, because shame is an interpretation of information from the interpreter. So if I am called out on being a racist and I feel shamed, that is my feel. I don't know how.
I think it can come from, we know when we're using shaming language. You don't think that they're shaming language?
We can explore. Yeah.
Kind of to, you're acting very privileged right now. Or, okay, you snowflake.
Yeah.
That is meant to shame someone. Even if they don't feel shame, they feel rage instead.
She's talking about embarrassment and exposure.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the feeling of shame.
Yeah, the feeling of shame. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And shame culture is more that call out culture, that cancel culture.
I'm going to put you on blast. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the flogging in the public square.
Yeah.
For the discretion. That's more
and
what
it
you're talking
was
about.
effective in terms of it did cause people to truly be canceled. And in the short term, it seemed like it was the only way to affect change. And that's why people were going so hard. However, it was a short term solution. It did not work. It is not sustainable long term, just like a culture of fear in a workplace is not sustainable because of you're going to lose employees. Well, I believe, lost allies to a more extreme or potential allies. And I think that is why we see the possibility of authoritarianism and fascism in this day and age.
That real. I do like that through line that you're talking about.
I do too.
The only pushback is that when you say it didn't work, there's aspects of things that I do feel like did work.
In the short term, it absolutely
not even short term. I'm saying even long term. I think there's a difference in the workplace culture now, holistically, about the way that men treat women and some of the things they say. Now, it could be both ways because women do it too, right? But I'm saying, but overwhelmingly, we understand the examples of that there's this chauvinistic, sexist environment in many workplaces when women were the ones had to watch everything they do because a man's going to comment on it or, just all these different things to where that Me Too movement, it straightened up some backs. And dudes are more cognizant of the things that they're saying now because it can be scrutinized very quickly. Things can be misunderstood. So whether it's intentional or not, people start playing the background a little bit more on some of those things. And those things have enhanced somewhat some of the workplace culture. So that was shaming tactics that did lead.
Temporary, because now
it's not temporary if it's still affecting today.
Well, this is what I'm saying. They are now going after saying they feel comfortable to say a woman's place is in the home. She needs to step back.
I can't say that in my home.
Yeah.
Who says
this is being, I mean, there was a football player who was maybe for the Chiefs or somebody made a statement like that, which...
Oh, I know. Yeah, you talking about Harrison Butker.
And then there are now pastors that are saying that one of the amendments that allows women certain rights should be...
The thing is, the examples you're citing, at least so far, are religious examples, though, not... Like I was talking about workplace culture in the Me Too movement. You're talking about religious examples of pastors. Harrison Butker, he said this in once he was at a Christian university giving a speech to other Christians.
The context.
Yeah. So now we're talking about is religion bringing back in this patriarchal, misogynist.
I think they could
versus
be using
what society is doing in our other social spaces. Those are different things.
Except we see our leaders, the president and the cabinet, making statements all the time about this being a Christian nation. It is a tool
that they are using to the founding of this nation. But yes,
right. But it is the tool they are using to justify rolling back the Me Too stuff that was successful. But like I said, it was short-term wins. And now there's kind of this attitude of now we can just say whatever we want. It doesn't matter who you offend type stuff. But back to the whole point is the shame culture is one of the reasons for this division. And honestly, I don't really understand, especially when you're talking to a Christian, how that's exhibiting compassion and empathy. Would you consider yourself a pastor?
No, I'm not a pastor.
But you're I mean, you're a theologist. In a technical sense,
I don't have a flock of people. Yes, I'm not over a congregation.
But
I'm a minister. Yes.
You're a minister and you have theology degrees.
I do. Yep.
As a Christian, is shame supposed to be the way that we are approaching things?
Oh, absolutely not. But that's a whole different,
Yeah.
And I do think there is some really great wisdom in a lot of the major religions related to how we should be approaching each other.
Okay, so my religion does say that if your neighbor offends you, you need to go and you need to confront them directly, right?
Directly.
Also, don't point out the speck in your brother's eye if you can't see the 2x4, the plank out of your eye. So I think there's a nuance in terms of, I can't say that, I don't know what a shame culture is. I can't say that we shame, but I will agree with you that there was an emboldenment and empowerment to speak out, to rage against racism or sexism or tribalism or ableism. And I do think there is a cancel culture, a shame culture that can say, oh, you offended me because you have on a green shirt. Like I said, there are outlandish extremists on all fronts, right? I think we have to be careful, though, not to empathize with racist or bigots or sexists or anybody else who maintains power through their dominance in a particular sector. If someone is overtly being racist, I don't think there is a moral obligation of the person who was the recipient of that racism to be kind or to be tactful or to try to consider not shaming them. I don't agree with that. Now, we can argue the merits of its usefulness in more subtle instances, right? And so, like, if it's a light offense, whatever that means to you, then that's a different conversation. But overt, hateful acts are also not in my Bible. And I don't think that there should be a burden and a responsibility to limit the shame that this individual feels as the perpetrator of such acts. I think there are extremes on all sides.
Yes.
I think the core is really empathy and understanding.
And I'm speaking to the middle. How did the middle get pushed to the
100%.
extreme fringes? I'm not talking about if someone uses the N-word, obviously that is a racist comment. It's more this, oh, you're dancing to Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
What about Beyonce? That is the type of stuff that I was hearing
Yeah.
all over the place. And so you ask, what is shame culture? Shame culture is a society where social control is maintained through the fear of shame and the desire to uphold honor and reputation. In such cultures, individuals often feel pressured to conform to social norms to avoid public humiliation, contrasting with guilt culture that emphasizes personal consciousness and internal moral standards. So,
And I know you were talking about the middle, but for our viewers, I wanted to make sure it wasn't misconstrued as you being an empathizer with public, out of control bigot.
No.
Because I know you very, very closely. We do. And so I feel it important to make that point.
Yes.
And I do think that allies or would-be allies, whatever that means these days, in the movement for advancement of humanity do become marginalized or feel othered in the movement for progress. I know a lot of socially progressive individuals who have come together and said, these things are wrong, they're deplorable, I abhor, and then they get into these groups, to your point, and they feel like, oh, I'm being pushed out as well. I'm being shamed. And hey, I'm with you, brother and sister. I love you. I want to ride with you. But I said this thing, I made this mistake, and now I feel shamed and no longer a part of the group. And really, I'm just trying to understand. So valid. And I do think it is a responsibility of people who have been the recipients of the oppressive tactics of people in positions of power to be mindful to the extent that they value and care and have this moral code of the impact that they have when calling out microaggressions or individual acts of oppression from their interpretation of the events, to present it in a way that doesn't estrange the offender beyond the point of reconciliation.
Yeah. So with everything you were saying, Victoria, where I completely agree is that how maddening it can be to live in a world where you feel like every action that you're going to make, everything you're going to say is possibly going to be scrutinized and misunderstood. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's right.
That can be super maddening. And that is one of those byproducts of, then do I just stay in my house? Because if I go out and say anything, someone's offended and all those things. So I get that. And then to Sir Jabe's point earlier he made as well, even though I don't think that's the way that we should be breeding that kind of environment, we also just can't let them make it.
No pass.
Because then nothing's going to get better either if we're not addressing any of these things. So
and I think it's just the approach to how it's done.
And that's exactly what he was talking about when he pointed out scripture, because there is also the difference between the one-off and having some type of relational capacity as well. Because if you have relational capacity, that's exactly where that scripture comes into play, that if I feel offended by you, I should be able to go to you. And the approach, if we're talking about in a Christian way, should be love, should be forgiveness, and these things, grace, these things should be up front to where I'm like, hey, I just simply want to talk to you and let you know how I felt about what happened and hear you out. And then maybe we can get to the same page. And if this doesn't work out very well, that's when the next step is to go to someone that we both trust and love to have that conversation. So now we incorporate Sir Jade. Hey, now we can have this conversation in front of him because now he can help to moderate, to Victoria, you got to calm down. Hey, Q, you said this, man, to where then we're on the same page. And then if we all three can't, then there's a larger body of, okay, let's really get a friend group together here. You know what I mean? Like, so there's escalation in this, and none of it is embarrassment. It really is trying to get to resolution. It's really trying to get to this place where we have learned and grow and can now be on a similar page. but that's relational capacity. In the one-off, I might not have time for all that. We might not even have the body to be able to go and escalate, right? So in that point, if I'm going to address the one-off, I should also do that from my Christian standpoint of grace and love and not embarrassment, right? But also to Sajay's point, if I'm offended in that moment, I am a human being and emotions probably come into play too. And I'm not perfect. So yeah, I might be mad and it may lead me to where I'm not addressing this very gracefully in the moment, right? And that's introspection I might have to do for myself later on.
That's right.
But in that moment, yeah, I'm offended. Like, and that's a difference.
That's where I think for everybody, the only thing we can control are our reactions to things. We can't control what other people do.
That's
and
right.
so that is what I learned as an advocate. And one of the reasons why I stopped drinking is because I would get offended. And if I was drinking, you're going to hear you're going to hear it in a very ungraceful way. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I think
Tell
of
us some of the things you would say. What's one word you would use? No.
You can't sit with me.
I was like, get that button ready. Hold on. Yeah.
No. And so I do think that is one thing that everybody, if you want to be an advocate, and they say there are no perfect advocates, I think one of the most powerful things that you can do yourself is to work on emotional regulation and take a look at what are some things in your life that might be contributing to not being able to maintain composure in situations. And again, this is just for advocates. I'm not saying everybody but honestly, we could all, I believe, benefit from exploring ways to emotionally regulate and cope, especially as things are heating up in America. So
we're going to cool them down. And I think we've answered this question, is who bears the burden? What I heard was everyone. It's the responsibility of all humans who want progress, who want the world to be a better place, to take the seat of understanding and being compassionate and having conversations. And it'll be bumpy road, but we'll get there as a team, as a nation, as a country. And we invite you to join us as we search for paths to unity.
Thank you for joining us for the Long Game Culture Podcast.
Take care.